So this video is going to cover exploration and just go over some of the real basics as well as fitting and skills. This will be part of a series of multiple videos that will showcase different areas, but to keep them shorter, we're going to try and break it up a little bit. So the first thing with exploration is what it's going to encompass is really going out looking for cosmic signatures, which will give you access to several different things. The two primary ones that we're going to look at are data and relic sites, which within those are going to have salvage components that you can then turn around and sell for ISK, and just depending on the sites you can pull anywhere from a couple of million ISK out of a single site to I think the highest that I've ever pulled out of a single site was something along the lines of 80 to 90 million ISK out of one relic site. So we're going to cover just some basic fitting and skills. So we're going to start off with just some of the skills that you're going to want to look at that affect how you do your exploration. So you're really going to primarily look at scanning. There are ship skills. We're not going to look at those. We're just going to look at those skills that specifically deal with scanning. Now this is my PvP character, so on this character I don't have good exploration skills, and so this video is intentionally done here because I want to showcase how you would do this if you're a brand new player, because the skills I have on this character are where you could be with any brand new player within a day, maybe 2 days max. You could have the same skills as far as exploration as this character has. So the first one we'll look at is Archaeology, and as you'll see up here, what this does is it gives you plus 10 virus coherence level per level of the skill. Now we'll cover this more when we go into the video on the actual hacking, but what this does is it makes your hacking ability stronger. And then once you get this skill, Archaeology, to level 5, it allows you to use a tier 2 Relic Analyzer that we'll cover in just a minute. So this is a very important skill that you're going to want to get up to level 3 to 4 as quickly as possible, and then once you've gotten some other skills trained, you want to actually get this to level 5 to get into tier 2 analyzers. As you'll see in some of the other videos, that makes a huge difference. Astrometric acquisition is going to give you a 5% reduction in scan probe time per level. This doesn't seem like a big deal, but when you're scanning down, especially if you go into wormholes where you have 10 to 15 or more signatures that you need to scan down, that 5% per level really is going to come in handy. This is not something that's going to make you a better scanner, it's just going to make it faster, and especially if you're scanning in nullsec or wormhole space, the faster you're done scanning, the faster you can run a relic site, the less likely you are to get killed. So that speed is actually very important. Again, this isn't the most important skill, but it is very helpful. Astrometric pinpointing, you'll see this in the video that we do on scanning. This is important because this reduces the deviation or the variable of how inaccurate your probes are. So basically there's a percentage chance that your probes will accurately find the signature that you're trying to scan. And again, you'll see this more in depth on the scanning video, but this skill decreases by 5% that variable. So the higher level this skill is, the more accurate your scanning is going to be, and again, this is going to make it easier for you to find signatures and to scan them down. So this is actually an important skill to have. Astrometric range finding, what this does is it increases the probe strength of your scanner probes. So the scanner probes that we'll cover just a little bit in this video that you utilize to find a signature, this is a skill that actually makes them stronger. And this is important because especially when you go into nullsec, you're going to have a higher level of scan probe strength just to be able to identify the signatures. So if you don't have this skill very high and you're trying to scan down a high level signature, you're going to really struggle. When you get to some of the, if you want to call them elite or advanced exploration sites, they require something on the range of 106 probe strength just to be able to identify the signature. So this skill does come into play in that situation. Astrometrics is a great skill because it actually increases multiple things. So it affects your scan strength per level, it affects your scan deviation per level, and it also affects your scan time per level. So it hits kind of all three of the other areas all within this one skill. So it does about the same, but it is all three at once. So this is a very important skill that you want to have up to level 4 most likely. Hacking is going to be your data sites. So Archaeology allows you to do the hacking for relic sites, or yeah, and hacking is the exact same skill, but it is for your data sites. And so it's exactly the same. It gives you +10 virus coherence, which we'll cover in the hacking video. And this is also what allows you to utilize tier 2 hacking data modules is your hacking skill. So this is another one that you do want to get to level 5 fairly quickly. On my main character that I'll showcase in another video, I have, I believe, these skills all to level 4, then archaeology and hacking are at level 5. These were the two most important ones to get to level 5 because they do affect your abilities to make money. These just are more about speed and accuracy, but you can make do with level 4 on these. I would highly recommend getting these skills to level 5. So that's all I'm going to cover on skills. Like I said, there are several. Actually, the other ones I do want to go over is your frigate skills. If you're starting exploration, your frigate skills for whatever race you primarily fly are going to affect you. I am currently flying a Caldari frigate, which you'll notice I only have level 3. I actually do have Minmatar frigate to 5, but I'm intentionally utilizing a Caldari ship so that this will be more realistic to a new player versus something experienced, because it affects your ship. So let's take a look at the ships and fittings that you can use. So to cover the first, you have some specific ships that are geared for exploration. So we're going to start with Amar, and if you look at that, they have the Magnate, which is your exploration ship. And if you look here in the bonuses, you'll see that they get a 7.5% bonus to core and combat scanner probe strength per level of the skill. So this is where I mentioned my using a Caldari frigate where it's only at 3. So with Caldari frigate 3, I get a basically 22.5% bonus to my scan probe strength, versus my Minmatar frigate, which is at 5, is going to get roughly a 37.5% bonus to scan strength. So my Minmatar frigate is actually much better suited on this character for exploration than a Caldari frigate. But that's, and you'll also notice is they have a +5 roll bonus to Relic and Data Analyzer strength. And again, in the hacking video, this will you'll see this more, but this actually can make a big difference in your success in running a site, whether you have that +5 bonus or not. So the Magnate is the Amar frigate, and if we go over to Caldari, you'll see the Heron, which is the ship I'm flying right now, and that same bonuses, 7.5% bonus to probe strength and a +5 to the Relic and Data Analyzers. And then if you go over to Galente, you're going to see the Imicus, and that's exactly the same. They all have the same bonuses, 7.5% and +5. And then if you go over to Minmatar, you're going to have the Probe, which is right here. Exactly the same, 7.5 and +5. Now, if you go up on each of these, you're going to have an advanced tier 2 frigate that you can fly. So for the Minmatar, that's going to be the Cheetah, and you'll see there's several skills. I'm just going to cover the ones that are relevant to hacking and scanning. And so you'll see that in this, they get a +10% bonus in the core and combat probe strength. So it is +10% per skill versus +7.5. So where my probe would only get a 37.5% bonus, my Cheetah, if I were to fly the tier 2 frigate, would have a 50% bonus to probe strength. And you'll also notice where I said it could fit the +5 bonus for the Relic and Data Analyzer strength. You're going to see that that's a +10 for tier 2. That extra 5 is huge. The other thing, and this is probably the most important thing for the tier 2 frigates, is the ability to fit a covert ops cloaking device. If you look down here in the roll bonus, and what that does is when you anything to fly a tier 2 frigate, you have to be an Omega, and you have to be an Omega to be able to cloak, but it allows you to fly your ship while cloaked, which is hugely important when you are carrying, you know, 500 million to 1 billion ISK worth of cargo in your ship. You probably don't want to be flying around nullsec without your ship in cloak. So this is a huge thing to be able to do that. And then these bonuses really are not going to affect into that, the same with survey probes. So I'm not going to go over each of the others, but if you in detail, but if you look here for the Galente, you're going to have the Helios is the tier 2 frigate. For the Caldari, it's going to be the Buzzard, and for the Amar, it's going to be the Anathema. The one other frigate that you do want to know about for exploration, and this is actually something that is a very popular exploration ship, is the Astero. Now what the Astero does is it allows you to have access to the covert ops cloaking device as well as the plus 10 bonus to Relic and Data Analyzer strengths without having to fly a Tier 2 ship. Now, the difference in that is where I could buy a Tier 1 frigate is going to cost you maybe 500,000 ISK. A Tier 2 frigate is going to cost you maybe 20 to 40 million ISK, somewhere in there. The Astero, just to buy the hull, is going to be 60 million ISK. So it's far more expensive than any of the other frigates. So there is a huge cost associated to flying one. Now, that being said, this is also one of the sturdier exploration ships. You'll commonly see this as a ganking ship because it's very powerful in PvP combat. So you do want to keep that in mind. This is actually my preferred ship for exploration, but it is a good ship to keep in mind that is available. The Stratios is a cruiser version, basically, of the Astero, and it retains the same bonuses for core strength and for the bonuses to Relic and Data Analyzers, as well as keeping the Covert Ops Cloak. It also gets a bonus to energy turrets. Again, this is a very powerful ship, so it is commonly used to be able to PvP as well. And the one other option, you don't commonly see exploration done in cruisers, but you can do exploration in Tier 3 cruisers, which is the strategic cruisers. So that would be for the Minotaur, that would be the Loki. For the Galente, that's going to be the Proteus, and for the Caldari, that's going to be the Tengu, and for the Amar, that is going to be the Legion. Again, you do not commonly see these ships as exploration ships just because of the sheer cost of them, but you will see them potentially running some of the higher end data sites that actually do have a fairly high damage and repair ratio needed to survive them. There are some uses where you might see a Tier 3 cruiser that would come in and do that. So let's take a look here. I'm part of Pandemic Horde, and we're just going to look in our corporate fitting at our basic exploration fitting, because this is something, again, that a brand new player is going to be able to fly day one. And that, to me, is really important to go over, because this is your real base level skill. So if you look here, these are just some of the most common things that you're going to ever see needed to fly a ship. So you're going to have a core probe launcher. Now, we'll take a look at those. There are a lot of options, but what that basically does is, if you look at the info, is it's going to give you a, let's see, where is our, it's going to give you the ability to launch the scan probes. This doesn't actually give you a bonus. I'm sorry, I'm looking at this one here. It doesn't give you a bonus. But if you look here within the scanning equipment, we're going to have other options where you have the Sisters Core Probe Launcher, which is another version, which is far more expensive. It's, again, 30 million ISK, but what this one does is it gives you a plus 10% strength. And so what you'll see in a lot of the more experienced or higher level scanning ships, you'll see a Sisters Core Probe Launcher that gives you an extra 10% to your scan strength. Okay? So within the Core Probe Launcher, you can go and fit probes. So most commonly you'll see either Core Scanner Probe 1 or Sisters Core Scanner Probe. And the difference is with these, so if you look at the Core Scanner Probe 1, is it's going to be used with this, and let's take a look here. Got the 2 times it goes down to 25 AU is your lowest level that it can go, and its base sensor strength is 40 points. Now if you look at the Sisters Core Scanner Probe, that base sensor strength is 44 points. So it gives you basically a 10% bonus right there, just using a Sisters Core Probes. Now the difference again is going to be, these are going to be commonly, the Core Scanner Probes about 5,000 ISK per probe, versus the Sisters Core Scanner Probe is going to be about 400,000. So a huge price increase, but these are commonly used in exploration. Now to fill it, you always need 8, so regardless of which probe you decide to go with, you're going to want 8 of them to fill your probe scanner. And if you hover over that, you'll see here I have 80 points of scanner strength. Now if I switch that out with the Sisters Core Scanner Probe, you'll see that I now have 87. So I basically got about 10% roughly more strength to my probes just because of the different probes. But we'll just keep it as that. The cloak, with this ship, we're on a prototype cloak. This just allows you to cloak while you're scanning. This is very important if you are trying to scan stuff down, especially in hostile territory. But it's something you want to keep in mind. Alphas cannot use a cloak, so if you are not an alpha, you will not be able to activate a cloak on a ship. And if you are an Omega, this is a skill you want to train at least cloaking to level 1 to be able to use a prototype cloak. Micro warp drive is important because this allows you to get back and forth between cans, and a lot of the sites they're anywhere from 20 to 40 or even 60 kilometers apart, and you're going to want to be moving at quick speeds with this. This ship moves at 3,000 meters per second, so you definitely want that. These are the two most important right here, is your Relic Analyzer 1 and your Data Analyzer 1. Now both of these modules are usable by alphas, and so with the bare minimum, I think most alphas actually start with the skills to be able to utilize these. And so look at the Relic Analyzer first. You're definitely going to want to do this. So it gives you a base virus strength of 20. So if you recall, I told you that the Archaeology skill affects your virus strength. And so this is how hard your virus coherence, I apologize, your virus coherence. And your virus strength is modified by your ship. So with the T1 ship, you get an extra 5 virus strength. So your virus strength with the T1 exploration ship would be 25 instead of a base 20. Your virus coherence, which starts at a base of 40, is affected by 10 per level of your archaeology and hacking skill. So with my archaeology skill at level 3, my virus coherence will be 40 plus 30 for the skill is going to be 70. So when you see me hack later with this ship, you'll see that I'll have a virus coherence or health of 70, and I have a virus strength or attack of 25, which is 20 for the strength plus 5 for the ship. Now, if you look over here, so data is going to be exactly the same as your relic. There's no difference between the two, just one is used for relic sites, one is used for data sites. Here you're going to see where I have a scan range finding array, and what this module does is this is going to go and it's going to give you a 5% scan strength bonus. So it's going to make your scan strength 5% better. So if you see here I'm at 80 points, if I were to deactivate this module, I'd only be at 77. So again, this is going to allow me to scan down harder sites. The scan pinpointing array, what this does is it does not affect the strength of your probes. You don't actually get stronger probes because of it, but what this does is it decreases the variation of where you scan by 10%. So this can be very beneficial if you don't have real high skills. You're definitely going to want this module to help you just to be able to scan better. The nanofiber structure just helps you go faster. The warp core stabilizer really is not going to help that much because most of the time if you get jumped, they're going to jump you with a warp scrambler, which you won't be able to warp out. But if someone just hits you with a warp disruptor, you'll still be able to warp out. But that's just, this is on the corporate fitting. The small gravity capacitor upgrades, these rigs, what they do is they actually give you an additional 10% scan strength. So you'll see if I were to deactivate that, I would be at 74. If I were to deactivate both, I would be at 68 points. So these actually give my ship quite a bit of more power scanning, which in the early levels, these are important to have. So you definitely are going to want to have these here. Now, I'm going to take this off and I'm just going to showcase a couple of the other skills that, or modules that you would use potentially. So the Data and Relic Analyzer 2, these are huge if you get to level 5. Again, these both require you to get your hacking and archaeology to level 5. So for data, hacking has to be level 5. For relic, your archaeology will need to be the level 5. Now, the difference with these is going to be pretty big. So if you remember, the virus coherence before was 40. The virus coherence here starts at 60. So you gain an extra 20 points of virus coherence. So if my skills at 5, that gives me 50 extra points, plus a starting of 60. Rather than starting at 70, my when I start the hacking minigame, I would be at 110 points, just based off of the module and based off of what I would have from my skills. So this is a huge thing right here. The bigger one is the change from 20 to 30 for the virus strength, because this allows you to kill a lot more. So this again boosts you. If you're in this ship, you're going from a 25 to a 35. If you're running in one of the T2 ships or within the Astero, you would go from a 30 to a 40. And this really does have a big impact when you go and do hacking, as you'll see in a later video. And that is your Relic and Data Analyzers. Now, one point I do want to make out is you'll see here the virus utility element slots, and it says 3 here. And we'll explain what utility elements are later in the hacking video, but this is important because when you look at some of the other analyzers that you can do, there's a ligature and a zeugma. Now, what these two do is they combine the abilities of the Relic and Data Analyzers into one module. So potentially, instead of having, let's say, a Relic and a Data Analyzer, I could go and put in, let's say, the zeugma, which would give me both Relic and data analyzers in one spot without having to sacrifice 2 slots, so you'd have better fitting. Now the thing that you want to keep in mind is, if you remember, the virus coherence goes down. So the virus coherence is now 30 instead of, I believe we were at 60, and the virus strength is at 30. So this is the tier 2 version. The virus strength is the same, so it stays 30, but the coherence, your health drops by half. So where I was at 60 coherence before, my health drops to half in the hacking minigame. Now there is an implant that matches very well, and I will showcase this later on my tier 2 exploration character, that when you put this analyzer together with that implant, your hacking it's like God mode hacking. It's very easy to hack, but without that, I would not ever run this analyzer or the tier 1 version. The reason being also is that you have less utility element slots that you can pick up, which again, I'll explain that later in the hacking video. So that covers the fitting. There are a lot of different ways that you can fit your ships. Let me see real quick if I have one of my Astero fits on here. That may be on my other ship, but let me take a look really quick. I do have a couple of Astero fits. Alright, so this is my preferred Astero fit that I utilize when I go and I do exploration on my other character. And let me just swap one thing out here really quick. Okay, so this is the fit that I use, and this is why a lot of people do like the Astero, is because it can be very difficult to kill. And what that does is this ship is very strong. So what it has is it has a Sister's Core Probe launcher. It has Sister's Core Probe scanner probes in that launcher. And so you notice before I was at 80, I'm at 88. My other character is at like I think 99 scan points with this setup right here. You have a Covert Ops cloak, which allows you to warp while cloaked, which is fantastic. This has a armor repairer as well as an armor plate, and it carries drones that can dish out about 89 points of DPS, and this can repair about 24 hit points per second, which is not an amazing, but this is enough that if you get jumped by another frigate, I've killed other Asteros, I've gotten away from cruisers and battle cruisers that have tried to jump me on exploration sites. This is a pretty decent fit. It is very expensive, as you'll see here. This is a $320 million fit, so this is not a cheap exploration ship. But this is kind of something, as you look at a higher end, this is one of the possibilities that you might see for an exploration fit. So that is going to be it for this video, going over just some different fits that we can use, and my next video will go over and cover scanning.